Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a genuinely wild case study that, well, it completely flips our idea of everyday safety right on its head. We all expect things to be a bit chaotic outside during a massive storm, but what happens when those massive commercial buildings, the ones we literally count on to keep us safe, just buckle under the sheer weight of flash floods? Let's get right into it.
Okay, so picture this for a second. You're heading out for a super quiet morning grocery run, right? It's that sweet spot in the day, totally peaceful, no crazy post-work crowds. You stroll through those heavy automatic doors of one of those massive warehouse stores, and you're thinking, great, I'm completely shielded from that nasty torrential downpour outside. But then, out of nowhere, Mother Nature just aggressively crashes the party. The literal roof over your head starts to give way. Seriously, what do you even do when the very thing built to keep the storm out suddenly invites a literal deluge right into the checkout aisles?
Well, that exact nightmare scenario, it actually happened. This played out right after the 4th of July weekend at a huge BJ's wholesale club down in Monmouth County, New Jersey. The pressure from the weather was just so intense that the building's roof partially collapsed, and the scene inside, it was straight out of a disaster movie. Eyewitnesses described this terrifying moment where a massive rush of debris, along with, of all things, scattered red, white, and blue holiday balloons, just came flying right at unsuspecting shoppers. It's such a jarring collision of a violent storm tearing into the most mundane, everyday environment you can imagine. Now, to really grasp the gravity of this whole thing, we have to look at the human element here. When that roof actually gave away, there were exactly 27 people inside that building. 27. That includes the employees who were just grabbing their coffee and starting their morning shifts, and their early bird customers just trying to knock out their weekly errands. So you have 27 lives suddenly and violently thrust into this incredibly dangerous situation as the massive infrastructure right above them just begins to fail. And here is where things get really terrifying. Let's look at this number right here, 2. Out of this 27 people, 2 individuals actually got trapped. Think about it. You have this violent influx of heavy building materials crashing down, mixed with this rushing water just pouring in from the busted roof. It created an incredibly precarious situation in a matter of seconds. These 2 people suddenly found themselves stuck, basically navigating this terrifying maze of collapsed metal and rising water right in the middle of a wholesale club, and they needed immediate rescue to get out of that wreckage. But okay, take a deep breath, because here is the massive sigh of relief. And honestly, the most astounding data point of this entire event? 0. 0 injuries reported. The Monmouth County Sheriff's Office came out and officially confirmed that despite the roof caving in, despite the rushing water and all that terrifying debris, every single one of those 27 people, employees and customers, were safely accounted for. Nobody was hurt. It is just an incredibly fortunate ending to a situation that, let's be real, could have easily turned into a massive, devastating tragedy. Just listen to the sheer disbelief from one of the store employees who was standing right there when it happened. They said, "I just saw like water coming, running up, trained to expect the unexpected, but nothing like Mother Nature." Imagine the panic in that exact moment. The urgency was so intense that ocean police literally had to rush in and order a rapid, full-scale evacuation of the entire building. It really highlights this humbling reality, right? We can run all the emergency drills we want, but the raw, unbridled power of a flash flood bursting through a ceiling, you just can't predict that. Mother Nature always has the upper hand. So the micro to macro impact, zooming out to the broader community. To really understand the sheer scale of this threat, we have to pull back and look way beyond the 4 walls of that single wholesale club.
Because the storm didn't just break a roof, it unleashed a total cascade of public safety threats all along the Jersey Shore. We're talking massively flooded local roadways that basically turned into rushing rivers. Major interstates, completely impassable, which ended up stranding all these drivers who probably thought, oh, I can just push through this. Nope. First responders were pushed to their absolute limits, having to pull off multiple urgent water rescues as these flash floods just entirely paralyzed the region's transportation and emergency networks. It's a stark reminder of how fast an entire region can be brought to a literal standstill by intense rainfall. All right, so the meteorological data, quantifying the deluge. Let's dig into the actual numbers and look at the intense weather data that triggered all of this chaos. If you look at this comparison, the crucial point is that we aren't just talking about a steady, heavy rain here. We are talking about extreme rainfall intensity. This storm system was dumping rain at rates of 2 inches or more in these incredibly short, violent bursts. And when water is falling that fast, it simply has nowhere to go. Those crazy intense rates rapidly compounded,
stacking up to massive total accumulations of 4, 5, and almost 6 inches of rain in just a 24-hour window. To put that into perspective, that's half a foot of water. It's this specific, lethal combination, extreme, short-term intensity slamming into heavy overall accumulation, that completely overwhelms our local drainage systems and, as we saw, the weight capacity of those flat commercial roofs. Now, the contrast between the day of the storm and the immediate aftermath is frankly a bit jarring. Over on the left side, you got the pure, unadulterated chaos of storm day. Buildings falling, drivers stranded, just raging water taking over the town. But then look over on the right. Literally the very next morning in Oakhurst, New Jersey, the water had largely receded. Things were noticeably drier, and amazingly, construction crews were already on site at the Wholesale Club at the crack of dawn to kick off the massive cleanup. It's pretty wild to see, and a real testament to how fast a community has to completely pivot from survival mode right back into recovery mode. But hey, just because the water goes down doesn't mean the whole ordeal is actually over. Even though the roads cleared up relatively fast, the lingering environmental scars were super obvious. If you drove around the next day, you'd see all these noticeably wonky trees that were just pushed to their absolute limits by the intense winds. There was scattered debris everywhere, and honestly, the biggest thing, the storm system itself wasn't even finished. The immediate flood threat basically just packed its bags, shifted further north, and set its sights on Massachusetts and the New England area, threatening to drop another 2 to 3 inches of rain on totally new communities. Which really brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this entire explainer. We've just seen how a completely normal morning grocery run can morph into a frantic evacuation, and how just a few inches of rapid, intense rainfall can completely paralyze an entire region's infrastructure. So I want to leave you with this to chew on. As these extreme storms and flash floods just keep intensifying, both in how often they happen and how powerful they are our large-scale commercial buildings, the places we shop, work, and shelter in every single day, are they truly built to handle the deluge? It's definitely a question we all need to be asking ourselves as we watch these weather patterns change right in our own backyards. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.